All right, how's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. We just got the patch notes for the new season 1 season of the Malignant, and I kind of wanted to talk about them really quickly because I had some predictions before the league, and we got them, and I just want to talk about them. This is going to be a little less like scripted and more freeform, but I wanted to talk about the classes and just give you my thoughts on them because I think there's some in a really bad spot, and I think it's healthy to make this video. Now, starting off, Sorcerer, Barbarian are by far in the worst spots. I gave the Sorcerer a B tier in my last video about the tier list. I don't know where to put this class, but it's not good. And I'm just going to go over the significant things that we're going to talk about. So, for example, straight up, the occultist thing. Gain the effect of the teleport enchantment for free. When you evade using the teleport enchantment, you're taken to a random location. So first off, the only unique in the game that was added got a negative debuff. You're taken to a random location. This is so stupid. This is not only Sorcerer struggle with defense as it is. There's a lot of ground effects. Being displaced in a random location is death 101 for any class. This by far already makes this wand not usable. I don't care what the stats are on this. When you click the evade button, you can literally kill yourself. Not a good option. Very terrible. Really need to look at that. That's super bad. Next, I want to talk about the Devouring Blaze changes. So Devouring Blaze bonus crit strike damage reduced. Devouring Blaze crit strike damage to immobilize reduced extremely heavily. I think this is just one of the worst things that you can actually have to the Sorcerer. It's just terrible. I'm not as versed with the Sorc as I am with other classes. From what I can tell, these are meaningless in the grand scheme of things. I'm sure they help to some extent, but this doesn't solve a lot of the damage problems. This is one of their better damaging skills, and this really just got gutted. I guess the Paragon helped a lot, but this is really bad. The next thing I wanted to bring up was the defenses. They really nerfed the defenses and gave damage. Obviously, I always like damage, but I do feel like these numbers are, for the most part, inconsequential. Sorcerer already struggles with damage as it is, defense as it is. All these defense changes are just going to make the Sorcerer much worse. Not that she get fortify or anything, but damage reduction is one of the few things that she can get that's kind of helpful. Total armor, she doesn't have a lot of it. Really tough. Not sure where they were thinking when they added this, but this is just horrible. Now, I'm not trying to make this a comparison-based video because obviously each class got their own changes, but comparatively to every other class when it comes to their super world tier item, this is absolutely horrible. Core skills have launcher projectiles consuming all of your mana. For every 40 to 35 extra mana consumed, you launch an additional projectile, and the damage is increased by 50%. I mean 5%. If it was 50, it would probably be usable. So you have to stack mana, and every extra 35% at the extra 35 at the height will give you 5% more damage. At what point is this a usable part? Like, at what point would this ever be usable? Not to get off topic, but I do have a level 100 Necro. But let's compare the super world tier item. Each minion drains 1 to 2 essence per second, which deals up to 75% increased damage. With no minions, this is applied to you. So Bone Spear didn't get touched, really. I mean, it did, but it didn't comparatively. And you get this essence drain. Let's look at the, there's another one here. What's it called? Is it Determination? Determination. Essence drain effects are 50% less effective. In addition, gain increased resource gen. So that's what, two resource drain for the Necromancer, and they just get a 75% bonus increase. It's like 2.5. It probably rounds up to 3. Who knows? 3 drain per second, 75% damage, and then we're talking about a core skill. After you use a ton of mana, you get 5% damage. Like, I don't know what the massive disparity between these classes is to warrant this kind of change. And even the Barbarian one is kind of meh. That's kind of whatever. And then Druid, when you are hit with a stun, freeze, or knockback effect, there's a chance to automatically cast Grizzly Rage, but who, like, what is this? How is this equal to this? To this? Like, how are these, well, how are these two equal to what the necromancer got? They're not even comparable. They're so not even comparable, it's insane. Like, and even the druid, the rogue got a pretty decent one. Your attacks have a chance to apply on movements. This is just any attack from what I can read. It's not like tied to a core skill, which not like rogue has core skill usage problems anyway. Their mana gen is always good. This is condition, but the druid one's conditional to the point where you have to take damage to possibly get the effect. Based around taking damage, like what are these malignant hearts? Like why is the disparity between the classes so heavy? Like at one point you could argue that the classes were not like being favored, but like it looks pretty obvious to me that some classes are heavily favored. And as a necromancer main, I don't like it. It's terrible. Like I can't play any other class because all of them are just terrible. All right, I want to go back and check out the barbarian because it's important that we look at that one too, because again, the changes are crazy. And there's some other things that they said that just don't make sense to me. So fix an issue where the outer edge of Quake granted to Hammer of the Ancients via the aspect of Ancestral Echoes was dealing far more damage than intended. We recognize this adjustment is a significant decrease. So they know that this is a significant decrease. If you ever played Hoda, you're not doing enough damage really, and even in the previous state that is really like significant. But they recognize the significance to the build, but we do not want the strength to be reliant on underlying bugs. All right, let's go to the Barbarian patch notes. Do you see what's absent here? How can you remove a skill that remove an effect without giving it the ability to actually be able to be valuable? Now, when I look at this class, all I see is nothing but mediocre buffs on skills no one used, and not good enough to even use them, by the way. I'm still not using them because they're terrible. Like no one's using Rupture because it's gutted. These are good buffs, but they still are worse than just using like other things. Still Grass one's good though. Hamstring, now only slow healthy enemies. Don't understand the point of this. Barb already struggles with being able to get the crit. Their crit scaling is not the best compared to other. I can easily crit with my rogue. I need this condition to be able to reliably crit with my Barb. Don't understand the reason for this. No one's playing Blade. Don't understand the reason for buffing those. Here, Gore's Devastation now explode every 2 seconds after the sin. It hit cap is removed. This is better, I guess. But why does Gore still have an attack speed modifier on a Whirlwind base aspect or a base effect? Whirlwind doesn't scale with it. Why are we making changes like these when we could just make actual usable changes for the class? Like there's always argument to be made for like example things that have resistances on them. You can be like, okay, well, if resistances were working, which we didn't talk about for the sorcerer, there's argument to be made that you can say, okay, well, the resistances have some type of value even though they're not ideal. Whirlwind on this attack speed on Whirlwind gloves have no value. Now, I don't want to get into anything else in terms of the class balance because at the end of the day, most things got gutted. That wasn't a rogue or wasn't a necromancer. Druid did okay, but sorcerer either got some type of change that wasn't meaningful, or they got nerfed, or they got uniques that just didn't do anything. Barbarian got absolutely gutted as well. Not sure the design choices for that. Necromancer is still strong. I know they got a nerf, but Bone Spear didn't directly get nerfed. Some of the things that kind of helped it got nerfed, but it doesn't matter because let's be real here, I'm still overkilling. Not really sure what the design, Rogue never get touched. I'm not sure what the bias is between like those two classes outside of just like, I know Rod plays Necromancer, but surely that can't be the reason. I know like Dioxide, Woody Joe, and a lot of the big Diablo partners play Rogue. Maybe that's a tinfoil hat like conspiracy, but I don't know why those two classes get such heavy favoritism. Seems kind of strange. Anyway, let's talk about the other change that just blows my mind and I don't understand. Let's read it. We have observed that the experience bonus reward for killing higher level mobs escalate too fastly when compared to relative challenge involved. We still want to reward players for taking on this challenge. by encouraging them to participate in power leveling together instead of one players killing enemies while others member in their parties wait outside the entrance, whatever. My question to you is, why would I want, first off, how does this make up for this? Because, like, let's be real here. 3+ levels is 25%. 10+ levels 15%. In what way would I ever go and do a 10+ level dungeon, unless I'm a Bone Spear Necromancer, would I ever do plus 10 levels for 15% XP? Just from me playing for a couple of 100 hours, I can easily tell you that the difference in levels versus the time investment to get those 15% extra XP does not make up for it on most classes. Almost in no case does this make up for it. Like I said, the only example I can think of during my experience as a class playing against 10 levels higher has been a Bone Spear Necromancer. At no other time would I ever go 10+ levels for 15 more experience when I can just stay on level and just kill everything much faster. Don't understand these changes. It feels like this is a very misguided change. I know you want to nerf like the boosting, but I don't think this is a healthy way. At least make these numbers better. This is laughable. It is honestly deplorable. I think that's just, I don't say this often about Blizzard, but I think this was the dumbest change I've seen in a long time. Another thing, we're looking to increase the danger and hell tie risk reward gameplay by making the monsters a bit more challenging and the torture gift mysteries harder to open. Helltide monsters are now 3 levels higher. There's the risk. The torture gift costs increase more cinders. There's the risk. All interchangeable interactable objects in the Helltides now have a small chance of dropping aberrant cinders. Where's the reward? And this is like common in this patch notes. There's a lack of rewards. There's a lack of anything that's shown here. There's literally nothing outside of just the nerfs and the risk. There's no reward here. I feel like we're missing half the patch notes when I read this. Next thing I want to talk about. Cooldown reduction affixes often felt mandatory due to their raw power. Reimagine cooldown reduction will remain highly desirable stat, but the penalty for not prioritizing it won't be as harsh. I find this hard to believe that this makes any changes. I'm still putting CDR on my gear. It doesn't make me feel less harsh to use it. It just makes me feel bad when I get it, that I got a shittier stat. That's just what it does, straight up. It just makes me feel worse. So, not sure. Another thing, we're seeing crit strike damage and vuln damage often viewed as a hard requirement for a build success in Diablo 4. We believe this is the step towards allowing more builds to flourish, as we'll continue to make changes in support of the goal. Okay. Crit damage reduce. Lightning crit strike damage reduce. Crit strike damage with skills reduce. Vuln damage reduce. Where are the changes? All you did was make them weaker, and I still will put these on. These are still absolutely mandatory. At no time am I not putting these on, and at all times I'm still not using the other mechanics. And seeing that you didn't do anything to them, there is no this literally makes no sense. You literally didn't do anything other than nerf. I think there's a delicate, healthy balance between nerfing something and bringing other things up. You just nerfed and didn't bring anything up. Terrible. Just terrible. Don't like it. I don't usually get angry at games, but this is terrible. Like, this is garbage. Straight up. I think the problem with a lot of these things that we're seeing here is there's talks of things overperforming, but there's no mention or any changes that makes them not overperform or give us options for them to perform, or to pick other things in place of them to make me more enticed to use them. All I see here is nerfs, and more nerfs, and very little options or solutions to those nerfs. Not only are you actively nerfing things, but you're also lying and saying that you want more versatility and not providing it. All you're doing is making what is working and only usable slightly worse, and we're going to continue to use the same things until you offer options. I've been a part of a lot of Path of Exile patches. I've been a part of a lot of ARPG patches. The quality of life stuff and the fixes are great. Not to undermine those things. Those things should have been fixed to begin with. These changes should be in the game before the launch of the game. So I'm not going to give you pat on the back for fixing the game that should have been fixed to begin with. But for in the grand scheme of things, when it comes to like the world feel and the character feel, I think this is probably one of the worst I've ever seen. At no point, like honestly, as a player who likes to make builds, I don't know how anyone logs in as a sorcerer and say, I want to play this. I don't know how anyone logs in on a barbarian and say, this is okay. And I don't know how anyone logs in on a necromancer or a rogue and feel like they're not being treated favorable. Like rogue got their little baby nerf on their siphoning. I mean, it's not a baby nerf. It's a pretty big one, right? They're losing some survivability. Not like that matters because they're fast as hell and they can just dash anyway and they have decent dodge if anyone ever invests in it. But like, there's no way you sit here and look at these two classes and then compare it to the other three changes. Druid didn't get too bad, I will say. He won't. His heart thing was terrible, but he didn't get it too bad. But like comparatively, this is like, what's going on with those? Makes me like make Tim full hat like theories whenever I see this. Anyway, don't like complaining about patch notes, but Sorc players, rogue players, Sorc players, barbarian players, I don't know how you're doing it next week, and I'll try my best to help, but I don't see it. Anyway, that's it for this one. Good luck, guys.